Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for starting off your day with us. We are going to begin this morning with President Trump sparking outrage after demanding several Democratic lawmakers be arrested for what he called seditious behavior and suggesting they could be executed.
President Trump made those posts after half a dozen members of Congress released a video. In it, the lawmakers urge U.S. service members and the intelligence community to disobey illegal orders and protect the Constitution.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
The lawmakers did not specify which orders they were talking about. In response, writing on social media, the president called the group, some of whom are veterans, traitors. He suggested that their actions could be, quote, punishable by death. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now with more on this. So, Monica, Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries put out a statement calling the president's rhetoric disgusting and dangerous, saying political violence has no place in America. We know Democratic Congressman Al Green of Texas threatening to bring forward articles of impeachment against the president. How are Republican leaders in the White House just trying to frame the president's words here?
Well, we have seen this time and time again, Joe and Savannah, but of course, the president's words really matter. And sometimes he says things that are pretty incendiary, pretty inflammatory. And oftentimes Republicans will say, well, maybe I wouldn't have put it in quite those same words. That's at least what we heard from several people, Speaker Mike Johnson, for instance, and Majority Leader John Thune, saying that they wouldn't have necessarily framed it in this same manner, even if they express some of the concerns largely that are being issued with whatever these Democrats are calling for with this warning, with this directive to some military service members. But the White House was quick to clarify that this isn't a situation where the president of the United States is actually calling for members of Congress to be executed. But it's pretty remarkable that they even had to clarify it to that point. Here's how that exchange went in the briefing room yesterday. Listen.
Does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No, they should be held accountable, and that's what the president wants to see.
The words that the president chose are not the ones that I would use, okay? Obviously, I don't think that this is these are crimes punishable by death or any of that.
Now, what's important here is that remember that military members swear an oath to the Constitution and not to the president. And what Democrats are trying to be really specific about is this idea of, quote, illegal orders. But the White House was saying that essentially this is some members of Congress telling military members to disobey any order. And Democrats are trying to be really clear about the specificity here of what they are saying in this video.
Yeah, Monica, let's talk more about that because we don't know like super specifically what orders the Democrats in the videos were referring to, but what do we think compelled this?
I think there could be a couple of different things. Certainly, we know that there have been deployments of the National Guard, of other military resources to cities across the United States when it comes to immigration enforcement. So is it possible this could be related to that? Is it possible it could also be related to these continued strikes that we're seeing on boats in the Caribbean and in the Eastern Pacific for what the Trump administration labels these narco terrorists, but which certainly lawmakers have raised a ton of questions about the legality of ordering those strikes depending on who is on them and what they are actually carrying, given, again, renewed questions about the evidence for which the administration is using to base these continued strikes on. So those could be some possibilities. But the White House says that they are looking at this now from the Department of Justice angle to see whether just the Democrats bringing this message forward could result in any consequences for them. So that could be where this goes next, too, guys.
Monica, while we have you, we want to ask you about a legal setback for the Trump administration and its crackdown on crime in Washington, D.C., which started a few months ago. Yesterday, a federal judge ruled the deployment of National Guard troops in the Capitol actually violates federal law. The judge essentially wrote the president doesn't have the power to deploy the Guard for non-military crime deterrence missions without a request from city officials. What does this mean? Will these troops be sent home anytime soon? How's the White House reacting?
Not yet, because we know that this judge basically stayed their own order for a matter of time to allow for the administration to appeal. And the White House hasn't said if that's exactly what they're going to do, but they did respond in a statement basically dismissing this, saying that this is a lawsuit that tries to undermine the president's own authority over the District of Columbia and making these kinds of decisions. But we know that there's another case that is related to the Supreme Court that will look at the consideration of National Guard in Illinois, and perhaps they will wait for that decision before this goes forward. But for now, we know these National Guard troops are supposed to be in D.C. until February. Again, they will be here at least through the next couple of days and weeks until this winds its way through the courts.
All
Joan
right.
Savannah.
Monica Alba, thank you so much.
Well, former Republican congressional staffer is facing up to a decade in prison this morning after federal prosecutors say she faked a violent and politically motivated attack on herself. Some of the images showing the links she allegedly went to as part of the hoax are disturbing. NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin has the details.
These images show a then Republican congressional staffer lying face down in a New Jersey nature reserve, her hands zip-tied behind her back, her body lacerated with Trump and a profane word written across her stomach. Federal prosecutors allege 26-year-old Natalie Green did this to herself, part of an elaborate hoax meant to look like a politically motivated attack. According to the criminal complaint, at around 10:30 p.m. on July 23rd, an unnamed co-conspirator called 911. Telling dispatch that she and Green had been walking the trail when three guys just attacked us, talking politics and stuff, calling Green a racist. Police say they found Green crying loudly and yelling, "He has a gun, he has a gun." Investigators later found duct tape and black zip ties inside Green's Maserati. They also allege Green paid an artist $500 to cut her body just hours before the hoax attack. The court documents noting the cuts made to Green's skin at her request followed the exact same pattern as the lacerations observed when she was lying on the ground. Green is now charged with conspiracy to convey false information and hoaxes and with making false statements. In a statement, her lawyer writing, under the law, she is presumed innocent. The congressman she used to work for, Jeff Van Drew, said he hopes she's getting the care she needs.
I don't know any more than you all do, and we never would interfere with an investigation or a criminal process.
Erin McLaughlin, NBC News.
Federal investigators released dramatic new photographs of that deadly UPS cargo plane crash in Louisville earlier this month. 14 people were killed. The picture suggests the left engine came off before it caught fire. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has the latest on the investigation.
The NTSB photos show the left engine and the pylon holding it to the UPS plane's wing coming off the plane as it began to take off. Then a massive fire as the engine exploded up and over the fuselage, dooming the 3 pilots on board and killing 11 people on the ground. Mothers, fathers, sons and daughters, husbands and wives.
This might be the toughest Thanksgiving that their families have ever been through.
In the plane's remains, the NTSB says investigators found fatigue fractures in the pylon structure holding the engine to the wing. There and there with green arrows. As the NTSB notes, haunting similarities to a 1979 crash involving the previous model of the same plane that killed everyone on board.
This is all that was left of American Airlines Flight 191, as far as it got on its way to Los Angeles.
Investigators later determined the engine and pylon came off that plane after being damaged during maintenance. The FAA quickly ordered regular inspections of similar planes. The UPS plane that crashed in Louisville, built in 1994, went through routine maintenance in October, but wasn't yet due for a heavy, detailed pylon inspection.
The similarity of the engine and pylon coming off the wing is too obvious just to ignore. But the details of how that happened, well, that's something the NTSB is going to be challenged.
The MD-11 has been grounded. Both FedEx and UPS, though, rely on it for cross-country cargo runs. That is impacting their operations going into the holidays. Both have had to use smaller planes, lean on partner airlines and ground transport options to help carry their packages. That is delaying some shipping already, but they both hope to be operating normally as they get closer into Christmas. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you.
Well, AAA estimates a record 82 million Americans are expected to travel more than 50 miles during Thanksgiving week. Well, now with the nation's airports ramping back up to full capacity after that government shutdown, travelers now have another concern on the mind. That's severe weather.
Storms are sweeping across the country. That includes a powerful system in Texas, dumping heavy rounds of rain. The bad weather threatening to create chaos for folks who are getting ready for the busiest travel week of the year.
For more, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa. She's at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. She joins us with the latest. Maggie, good morning. I mean, how's it going so far this morning? Really just the early jump on Thanksgiving, right? But what you see in there? Any delays? Is it crowded?
For sure, guys, it is crowded, I can tell you. Of course, we're barely off and running, but things definitely here. The lines are long. The crowds are larger than what we normally see, but they seem to be moving along relatively well. I just checked FlightAware's misery map. Delays and cancellations relatively low here in Chicago. No surprise, given the video that you just showed. The biggest impact right now at the airport in Dallas, where those torrential rains and flash floods really hit overnight. So we'll see how that kind of plays out through the rest of the day. But so far, nationwide, things relatively well, just kind of given that sore spot there.
I remember when people used to leave for Thanksgiving on Wednesday. Now it's like Friday, 5 days before, and the airports are packed. It's unreal. So, I mean, here's the big thing, Maggie. They're dealing with severe storms sweeping across the country. How much should travelers worry about the potential for weather delays in the coming days?
You know, they should definitely take it into account. I don't know if we would go so far as to say worry about it. Officials have stressed that they, meaning airport officials and all four major airlines, United, American, Southwest, Delta, all say they're ready to handle the holiday surge. And of course, when they say that, that means they're taking into account this potential for severe weather, right? That can always throw a major wrench in things. We've seen it before, but they've told us they're back up to normal staffing levels. Given everything that's happened over the last few weeks, they said it wouldn't be a bad idea if people wanted to get to the airports even earlier than they normally do, like 3 hours early instead of 2. But really, the airlines and airports have said they're ready. They had seen the forecast. They know things like this can happen. Still, they're just asking people to take a little bit of extra caution. Worry, though, maybe a step too far given what we've heard. But of course, we'll see.
What's the best advice, Maggie, if you're flying over the next few days?
Getting there extra early is kind of the key one. That's different from years past that we've heard. Also, of course, all the old standbys, downloading your airline's app, signing up for the alerts. A couple of industry analysts that we spoke to, so not anyone who has to worry about representing the airlines or the airports well, they said, you know, it wouldn't hurt to keep a carry-on with basically an extra change of clothes specific to where your connection is. So if like you're flying to Hawaii or something, but you're connecting through Chicago and you get stuck, you don't want to be in shorts and a Hawaiian shirt basically overnight. So just keep that in mind if you have that connection, and maybe just plan accordingly. Play it extra safe, they said.
That is great advice.
Know the layover weather and hope you get to Hawaii. While we have you, while you're at an airport, we do want to ask you about a holdover from the shutdown. The Trump administration issuing bonuses to air traffic controllers who maintained perfect attendance during that 40-day shutdown. How much money are we talking about here, and when could these air traffic controllers get these bonuses?
Guys, we are talking about $10,000 bonuses for nearly 800 air traffic controllers and technicians.
Amazing.
The Trump administration announcing this, I know, yesterday, saying that these men and women, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy calling them patriotic men and women who, in his words, never missed a beat and kept the flying public safe. He said they should see an automated alert about this bonus next week, Thanksgiving week, and they should have the money in their accounts by December 9th. This had been talked about by the administration. It had been floated by the president, but it wasn't like kind of a real tangible promise until yesterday. So, yeah, of course, a major headline this morning.
I love that. Them and our TSA workers who kept us flying during that. Amazing. Maggie, thank you so much.
We thanked them during it, but we didn't give them $10,000. All right. So as we were talking about with Maggie, we're wrapping up a week of soggy weather, drenching millions of people, and there is more to come.
That means it's time for Angie Lastman to join us with the latest. Hi, Angie. Good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning. It feels like I'm a broken record here talking about the weather across parts parts of the Southwest, specifically Southern California. We once again are waking up to some wet weather. We've still got the potential for some flooding, so no surprise that we're seeing these flood watches remain this morning. Some of them stretching into parts of Southwest Arizona. You can see just to the east of Indio included in that for California. And then the LA area, we do actually have a flash flood warning in effect there as of right now. And you can see why. We're spinning in more of this moisture, and it kind of just hangs around through the day today. It's a quick mover, so it'll take its time as it works towards Arizona today as far as that system is concerned, and the flood threat will remain, specifically concerned about those desert areas today. By tomorrow, a lot of that moisture is going to be over the Baja Peninsula, but we're still, again, going to see some of that kind of drift up into portions of southern Arizona. Notice Southern California looks a little drier, so we'll get a little bit of a break. But even still, between now and tomorrow, we'll see those highest amounts centered across parts of southeastern California and southwestern Arizona, up to an inch, maybe some isolated amounts a little higher than that. Meanwhile, in the middle of the country, we've got another storm system that's kind of working its way to the east. This is going to be basically a rainmaker from the Ohio Valley to the mid-Atlantic, and that's where I would watch for maybe some slower travel today. There'll be scattered showers for the southeast, so maybe one or two that you'll have to dodge there. And then it really picks up its pace and races across parts of the northeast and mid-Atlantic for tomorrow. So we'll see the first half of the day in places like New York City with a little bit of rain, but I think that should clear out pretty quickly, and you'll be back to enjoying your weekend. Speaking of the weekend, here's the big picture look. Really warm conditions, again, they continue across the middle of the country. We've got a whole lot of sunshine for the Great Lakes and the Midwest. There's that light rain that I mentioned for the east. And then looking ahead to Sunday, actually the fourth busiest travel day, guys. So we know that we're going to be looking at the airports and looking at any trouble spots. The couple that I want you to note, Northwest is going to see some rainfall. So places like Seattle, Portland, you could see maybe some delays there. They'll be likely. So I would definitely take Maggie's advice when you're considering heading to those airports. Dallas, similar story. Otherwise, there sure is a lot of green on this map, from Boston to Miami, Chicago, Minneapolis, looking really good for Sunday. And the roads, it's going to be those same kind of spots. So the Southern Rockies and the Plains, you could see some wet roads and maybe even a little bit of snow. And then similar story along I-5 across parts of the Pacific Northwest. You'll see some of those likely delays on the roadways. It'll take you a little longer to get where you're going. And we kind of keep that going as we look ahead into Wednesday. I know I've skipped a couple of days, but again, another busy travel day. Wednesday, you can see a lot of rain across the east. And then as we look at those airports, it's going to be Boston to Atlanta that we watch. But it just looks like rain right now. So I'm not too concerned, but we know how the snowball effect works with things like this, weather delays.
And it looks like if you do end up in Chicago with your shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, it's actually not maybe tolerable. You might be okay.
Right, you won't need your parka.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you. All right, well, with a few very notable exceptions, U.S. leaders from across the past few decades gathered in Washington on Thursday for the funeral of former Vice President Dick Cheney. While he was a powerful and polarizing figure when in office, friends and family from both sides of the political aisle gathered to honor his legacy. NBC News Chief Washington correspondent Andrea Mitchell has a look at how he was remembered.
At the National Cathedral, a bipartisan farewell for Dick Cheney, perhaps the most powerful vice president of modern times, and also controversial.